Hello there, and welcome. It's Friday, so I've talked to you about evaluation and kind of given you some ideas about how to respond to it, and I suggested that you, if you get the opportunity to see yourself videotape, that you take it up. Videotape, nobody does videotape anymore. Have yourself recorded digitally, I suppose. That's what it is now. I had this experience very early on as a teacher. In fact, it happened during my teacher training, which most schools call student teaching, and my family called stupid teaching. So it's where you actually are supervised in your first teaching experience, not hired by a district, but pay to go in and get your feet wet in the teaching business. Now, a lot of people don't realize that teachers have to go through this kind of almost like an apprenticeship program. And I really lucked out in a way because I got to teach 3 different subjects. I taught pre-algebra, and I taught psychology, and I taught junior English, and that's American Lit. It was great. It was so wonderful because it gave me insights that continue to evolve in my mind. The the teachers that I worked with were of very different styles, and the way they allowed me to enter and start teaching for them was very different, and it gave me the full range of what it's like to try to learn to teach and how teachers respond to it. Now, teachers that supervise student teachers get a little bump. They get a little taste of the money from the school. And so that's how they kind of convince teachers to let student teachers work with them. And one teacher that I had, the psychology supervising teacher, was happy to have me there because I observed for one day and then he just handed the class over to me. Now, this was not really a problem for me because my major was psychology, so I was absolutely steeped in the material. I didn't even have to struggle to get on top of things and really get it done, get lesson plans and do it all. And he never watched me once. Not really. He didn't. He just disappeared. It was like he got an extra prep hour and that's how he treated it. The English teacher, she was happy to get a little bump in pay. Who of us isn't? But she did not want to let the class come to me. She definitely struggled to let me take over teaching the class. It was very difficult for her. And it was for a semester. These experiences were for a semester, or just less than a semester. I didn't do finals week. She loved the subject, and as an English teacher myself, I understand why. It's really, when you're in a really good subject that you really love to teach, it's hard to let somebody else take the reins. But my math teacher, my math supervising teacher, Mrs. Arts, was wonderful. It's interesting, her name was Arts, she taught math. She was wonderful because she really was interested in teaching me how to teach and in strengthening the skills that I already apparently had. She was incredibly tolerant, kind, but one of the things she did was she videotaped me while I was teaching, and it was really videotape when she did it, a real videotape machine. So after she videotaped me, then she would go through an evaluation with me that would also be videotaped. It was superb to go through this experience. It was awful, and fantastic. So, to give you an idea, she had a class of 28 kids, and they were pretty high-spirited. They were freshmen and sophomores in that class. So they were high-spirited, and it was really a full room. And from the first day, I started teaching from the first day. I didn't teach on the first day, but from the first day that I started teaching, I had no discipline problems in that class, which was kind of surprising because they could be rambunctious, and tended to be a little rambunctious with her, but they were not with me, which I took to mean that I was this fantastic teacher. So the day of the videotape, I was teaching Cartesian coordinates, or the point slope formula in mathematics. Now, for those who don't really know mathematics, the big thing you need to know about teaching this particular concept was you use a Cartesian grid on the board, like it's graphing. Essentially, I was teaching graphing. And it's an important skill. It's important for a lot of professions, and it's important to understand how things work, how important knowing how to read these things are. So it was an important area, and I was excited to be teaching it. So the videotape didn't move. She did not move the videotape. She set it up in the back, and it took in the front of the classroom, and that was it. And she just turned it on and let it run. So it was before class, and the kids are kind of milling around and things are going on. And then the bell rings, and all the kids get to their desks, and you hear the door close, and you hear me walking. And I walk into frame, and I'm wearing something similar to this, a blue shirt and blue pants. And I have a yardstick in my hand. Oh, well, I have the yardstick because I'm teaching coordinates, graphing on a graph, and I need this yardstick to make straight lines. What I didn't realize I was doing was I had the yardstick in both hands, and I would swing it like a sword, like a broadsword, over the kids' heads, like that. Whoosh, whoosh. I didn't even know I was doing that, okay? Of course the kids were well behaved. I looked frightening. I looked like I could end them, okay? I didn't mean to look like I could end them, I just did. And then after I saw that video, I thought of how many teachers I had habits that it was clear they were completely unaware of. There was a teacher that I had that rolled the chalk like this when he taught, and it clicked on his wedding ring every time. It was maddening. There was a teacher at my college who cleared his throat, and the students used to count the number of times he would clear his throat. They'd keep track of it in their notes. There was a teacher in Deming, that was my brother's teacher, who had a habit of pulling her shirt out, and when she'd pull her shirt out, she'd look down at the shirt. But of course to them it looked like she was looking at her tits. And they made jokes about her having little conversations with her tits. Okay, so that's the thing. I have no idea. I wish, this is one where I definitely wish I could talk to John about it, because you know that John dealt with this, that he had teachers that had these strange habits. He maybe had some habits himself. Me with my broadsword, it was mortifying to see that I was doing that. And you know, that habit of doing that was born whole cloth, and I was unaware of it. And I only have noticed my tendency to say when I'm doing these videos, because I have to look at them and I see myself and I say, oh my gosh, stop saying it's irritating the way you say Think of that. Think of being a teacher who's completely unaware of what's going on in the classroom, even with yourself. It's useful to know what you're doing. It's useful to see what's happening. It can sometimes be mortifying, because it was for me, and it's really difficult if you have trouble with liking how you look. And I'm so sympathetic to that, because I I have spent my entire life ashamed of my appearance. I mean, even when I lost weight, and I'm one of those women that has gone through this thing where they lose the weight and they gain it back, and then they gain a little more. I've done that more than once, and I did it because I really didn't like how I looked. It bothered me greatly how I looked, and I'm not in love with how I look now either, by the way, just so you know. But remember, it's not if you're pretty or handsome or appealing in appearance for the kids. You're not someone that they're looking at, hopefully, as a partner. You're someone that's teaching them. So your appearance, what's important about your appearance is that you look professional and clean and hopefully healthy. But even that isn't entirely necessary. The big thing is that you don't allow some habit that crops up to interfere with your instruction. That's the most important thing of all. You don't want to interfere with their experience of the instruction, because it's the instruction that matters, because they are what matters. And even if you really don't like how you look, I am totally sympathetic. If you don't like how you sound, I'm sympathetic, although I like how I sound. We all get compensation in some way or another. But you need to see what's going on, and you need to hear what's going on so that you can improve your presentation and thereby improve your teaching. That's it for today. I hope you have a fantastic rest of the day, and I hope you see me again, you gorgeous people.